getting started in doing these contemplations is possibly the hardest part of the contemplation. It's this part of breaking through this wall of resistance that is created by my own expectations, by my internal concerns about how it will come across, what I'll sound like, will I be myself, or will I be putting on this ego voice that I have, and it's just funny watching how it's just to get started, just to take that first step. And then all of a sudden it starts moving, it starts opening. Here I am, now in the flow, from just beginning. And this kind of really ties into the contemplation that I've been doing and wanted to bring forward around the 13th gene key. So again, if you haven't come across the Gene Keys work, check it out. There's a link at the end. You can print out your free profile and heaps of free information on the Gene Keys website. Now, the 13th gene key is all about listening. It's about heart listening, which sounds a bit woo-woo when you first say it. But what we're talking about in this key is, it's the shadow of discord, the gift of discernment, and the city of empathy. And so it's the capacity to truly listen. And, I've been hyper aware lately, you see it on social media and all around, just how much when people are having a heated debate or a discussion or an argument, and you see it in the chat threads in social media, you see it with two people, passionately discussing something or debating or arguing, and there's this fire and there's this passion. But what becomes pretty obvious is that generally all the parties are listening through the shadow fear field of discord, meaning they're tuning into the surface noise of the words people are saying and taking them incredibly literally, and then instead of even listening to what they really mean, they're already preparing an argument, they're preparing their attack, their defense, they're getting ready. It's like a war. Conversations and connections these days are like a war. Look at the social media, it's war to try and prove who's right and who's wrong, because we're terrified of being wrong or not knowing what's going on. We're terrified of somebody else attacking us. And so the gift of discernment that we've been working on with this gene key, this 13th gene key, and that I highly encourage bringing into your life more every day, is the gift to be able to truly be present with somebody when they're sharing something, even if it's completely against your belief system, even if it feels like it's evil, if it's horribly arrogant, if it's any of those things. Still just take a moment to just truly open your heart to hear them, to listen beyond the surface words that they're saying. And when you start to actually listen, you can start finding out things like, why are they even feeling the need to convince you? What is the insecurity that is driving their fire? What are they scared that you might take away from them if they can't convince you of their point? Where is their vulnerability? What is it they're hiding from? What is it they're truly trying to say and just simply may not have the words, the adequate descriptions? Not everyone is so eloquent with their vocal expression. And that's not a bad thing. They have their own expressions through their hands, through their craft, through their essence, through so many ways. Not everyone is so eloquent in that sense. So we need to give grace to each other, to just slow down a little bit, to actually be present enough to hear them. And often what you'll find is that when people are having these heated arguments and debates, the two individuals are actually debating about two different things, or two different layers, complete different layers of the same thing, and not even having the same conversation, because neither of them are truly listening, but just taking on the discord and trying to react to protect themselves and their point of view and their ego and their constructs of existence. And so I truly believe that one of the most healing things, if not the most healing thing and the most important thing for our world right now in this very moment, is for us all to take on the self-responsibility and accountability to evolve our capacity to truly listen with our hearts, without agenda, to listen in order to actually understand someone, not to win the argument, but to truly listen to understand, to have empathy, to understand what it must be like for that person who has a complete different belief structure and how they got there. Because when you truly listen from that point, when more of us do this in our everyday lives, in our families, out there in social media, within politics, economics, everywhere, instead of fighting each other, then we'll start understanding where the real issues are. Because it's not what we're yelling and screaming about. There's deeper issues. And when we start hearing those deeper issues, we start discovering there is an incredible simplicity that needs to be acknowledged. And when we can meet on that heart level, truly listening to each other and communicating, then we begin to open up the playing field for potential to grow again. We begin to open up this state of vulnerability where we actually recognize that we are all fallible, we are all human, we all make mistakes. So instead of trying to be perfect, instead of focusing on all the surface noise and discord that's out there in the world and yelling and screaming, because yeah, we get endorphin hits, we get all these kind of neurochemistry that goes wild when we're on Facebook and we're arguing and we feel like we're winning an aspect, or it's such a drug. But I can tell you that when we learn to slow our minds down, really come into our hearts and truly just listen beyond the words, with the intention to truly understand that person's perspective and where they're coming from, everything changes. And the empathy that begins to come forward, and the feeling of being deeply connected, the intimacy that begins to generate between what were two warring parties but are now two diplomatic, expressions of God hearing each other. There's nothing like it. And we need to demonstrate this to our children. We need to demonstrate this to ourselves and to each other. And more than anything, we need to evolve this capacity to listen through the heart to ourselves. Listen to yourself. Listen to how you are reacting to situations. Listen to why. Listen to your reaction to somebody's argument. And then actually listen deeper and find out why. Why are you having that reaction? Because the real goal in that debate is not to win it against the other person, but to discover your own instabilities, your own insecurities and programs inside, that when we can see them, when we can call them by the right name, then we can pull those weeds out and step up as a clean individual, do our part in the purification of our consciousness as we go forwards. And I think that's pretty bloody exciting. So I challenge you to just see how much you can listen in your movement through life.